Interest rates go down. Will they juice the economy and help your pocketbook? Could growing anarchy in one Soviet republic spread to others? And why are so many so grateful to be so dead? This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. The cost of borrowing money is heading down. Under pressure from President Bush, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates today to keep the economy from heading back into a recession or going deeper into recession, just as Mr. Bush is beginning his re-election campaign. We have a series of reports, beginning with correspondent Mark Phillips in Washington.
If another attempt to jumpstart the economy was needed, no one had to tell the nation's retailers, who had a bad month last month when they were hoping for a good one. Sales fell by 0.7% at a time when back-to-school shopping was supposed to pick things up. Auto sales were particularly bad as well. So on the theory that what the economy needs is easier money, the Federal Reserve once again dropped its key bank rate 0.5 point to 5%, the lowest it's been since 1973.
Usually when we come out of a recession, the economy it's like it was shot out of a cannon. We shoot up very strongly and very sharply. This time, we're kind of crawling out of a hole and very slowly.
The intent of the rate cut is to make credit easier for business loans, for mortgages, for consumer purchases. The U.S. economy is driven by consumer spending, and right now it's being driven nowhere fast.
I don't think these mixed signals are the signals of recovery. I think they're still the signals of recession. And if this is recovery, it's going to give recovery a bad name.
President Bush today welcomed the discount rate reduction, even if just yesterday he was saying the recovery was already underway.
I think we are beginning to see this economy move, and I think that, of course, is by far the best answer to jobs.
Some sign of an economic recovery would also be the best answer to the president's critics, who say he has no real plan for getting the economy moving, and that contrary to administration claims that the recession is over, the economy would appear to be still bumping along the bottom. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Washington.
This is Jerry Bowen in Los Angeles. Today's drop in the discount rate will mean extra dough for Panos Pastry, a family-owned bakery with a $650,000 loan from the Small Business Administration. The 0.5% cut in the discount rate will trigger a 0.5% reduction next month in the variable rate loan they received to expand to a new, bigger store just down the street.
I took a big breath, first of all, and I enjoyed hearing it. It is a break for us, a big break, as a matter of fact.
This is a major break for small business like us, which they can afford, they can breathe easily with this situation of economy, and they can, invest, and they encourage to make more investment.
Good news, too, for UCLA microbiologist Janet Singh. She and her brother are going into the pizza business.
It would mean a lot to us, a lower interest rate, meaning, a smaller payment, and we will have a lot more confidence in keeping the business going.
We're not going to be as poor as we thought we'd be.
Kathleen Daly and David Seltzer are already counting on a lower mortgage when they close on their new home next month. The kind of consumer confidence economists say is needed to jumpstart American business.
If the interest rates are dropping, maybe things are looking up, and maybe they'll go out and buy that car that they've been holding off from doing for the last year and a half.
And maybe they'll celebrate with something from the neighborhood bakery. Panos Pastry, part of the celebration over the lower interest rates today, includes plans to hire 7 new employees. The owners feel they have the dough to do it. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Now, what do falling interest rates mean for you? Here's what financial experts told CBS News today. If you are thinking about buying a home, mortgage interest rates are now at their lowest level in more than 10 years. The national average for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, 9%. The rate could still go lower, but probably not much. If you already have a mortgage and you're thinking about refinancing to take advantage of lower rates, here's a rule of thumb. The new rate should be at least 2 points lower than the old. For example, if you're now paying 11%, don't consider refinancing unless you can get a rate no higher than 9%. But keep in mind, there are closing costs involved in refinancing. Now, about your credit cards. The average interest rate on credit cards is now just under 19%. Don't expect that rate to go down. In fact, it could go up. And finally, the negative side of lower interest rates. They mean a smaller return on your savings. Yields on certificates of deposit are now at record lows, and they're expected to drop further. The average yield on a one-year CD is now about 5 3/4%. If you want a better return on your money, you'd have to move it to higher yielding, potentially riskier investments. More news about the Federal Reserve, already under criticism for failing to do anything about the world's biggest bank scandal at BCCI. The Fed's bank regulators made a disclosure to Congress today. They admitted that some what they call U.S. government officials got loans from the U.S. bank that BCCI secretly owned. The bank regulators would give no names, no description of positions, or amounts of money involved. They did their best to play down the idea that the loans possibly were illegal or improper. Still ahead on the Friday CBS Evening News. The man raising his thumb says he's ready to run. And the man raising his hand says he's ready to run against him. CBS News has been told that a delegation from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, quietly went to Moscow on Wednesday. The purpose is to meet with Soviet officials to discuss economic reform and possible Western aid for the long Soviet winter. When questions arose about that, it was revealed that United States Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady, and other U.S. officials will be visiting the Soviet Union next week. The United States and the Soviet Union are pulling back from another Cold War battlefront. In Moscow today, Secretary of State Baker and his Soviet counterpart said the two sides will stop arming rival forces in Afghanistan as of next January 1st. They called for a ceasefire and free elections to settle the conflict that has killed more than 1 million Afghans since the Soviet invasion in 1979. At the same time, CBS News has been told that Afghan rebels are now ready with a new on-the-ground military offensive. They say they expect to launch it within days unless the Soviet-installed Kabul government is changed immediately. The Soviets are retreating from international trouble spots like Afghanistan and Cuba. At the same time, they have big trouble brewing at home inside their own Soviet republics. Correspondent Tom Fenton has a report from the Republic of Georgia.
In the hills above the capital, troops of the Georgian National Guard are nervous, tired, and on constant alert against a possible attack. They are rallying around the former prime minister, who is now on the run. These are rebel troops, the firepower for a potential coup.
It was hoped that communism would be followed by democracy here, but it's beginning to look more like anarchy, with rival armed forces and militias staking out their turf. And all it would take would be a spark to set off a civil war.
We want to stabilize the situation, the commander says. We're here to defend democracy. But their enemy is the first democratically elected president in the Soviet Union. Zviad Gamsakhurdia, in Government House guarded by the remaining loyal troops, has become a lonely, controversial figure after only 4 months in office. He's accused of violating human rights and creating his own KGB.
We cannot let anarchy in Georgia. Anarchy is very dangerous now.
Since Gamsakhurdia's troops attacked demonstrators 10 days ago, the avenue in front of Government House has become a political battleground. The arguments raging on both sides of the barricades are tearing the country apart. We gave the opposition the opportunity to speak, this government supporter says, and they have done nothing but create chaos. The opposition is determined to topple the president who was once the hero of the independence movement, but is now accused of supporting the Moscow coup.
He's a dictator, and to be anti-communist, this does not necessarily mean to be Democrat.
Last year, candles were being lit here to protest communism. Now they're being lit again. The people of Georgia are suddenly realizing that their country is headed in another direction, and that it's only a short step from one form of totalitarianism to another. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Tbilisi.
Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas closed out a week of Senate confirmation hearings today. He said he never, quote, endorsed or supported an anti-abortion essay, even though he praised it in 1987. Thomas returns for more Senate questioning Monday. President Bush got a hospital checkup today for his heartbeat and thyroid problems. Afterward, White House officials pronounced Mr. Bush fit to run with Vice President Dan Quayle for re-election. More from White House correspondent Susan Spencer.
I got to run. I got to go prove I'm well.
President Bush seemed unperturbed at the idea of a physical on Friday the 13th. And indeed, when the 2-hour workup ended, his doctors gave him a squeaky clean bill of health.
For a gentleman in his mid-60s, the president's overall physical fitness level is incredible.
So much for the dwindling number of pundits who think health problems may stop Mr. Bush from running again. Staffers sure have no doubt, and indeed this afternoon the president was out posing with babies. He also experimented with a new technique for reaching potential voters, making a short plug for his CIA and Supreme Court nominees available to local stations via satellite. Friday the 13th finally caught up with him. To the consternation of the White House press office, a technical glitch meant that what went up didn't come down most places. Nearly 2 hours later, a second try.
I need Bob Gates now at the helm of our intelligence services.
But despite the technical glitches, the White House is likely to try this technique again. By calling such little speeches non-political, tax dollars can pay for them. If Mr. Bush were a declared candidate, that wouldn't be the case. So despite his fine health, don't expect an announcement out of here anytime soon. Dan?
So there won't be an official announcement because they want to take advantage for as long as they can of those pluses, which of course Democratic presidents have done much the same over the years.
Well, exactly. Most people think probably the announcement will come at the beginning of the year, maybe even after the State of the Union message. The idea, as you say, is to stay presidential, stay above the fray. And in any case, the White House really doesn't see any Democrats out there that they think are that much of a threat right now.
Any possibility, any indication that the president would reconsider whether Dan Quayle will be his vice presidential nominee?
We don't get one hint that he is reconsidering at all. Every time he is asked, he expresses total confidence in Dan Quayle.
Susan Spencer, live at the White House. Thanks. We've had a few opportunities to hear from the people running or thinking about running against President Bush. Tonight, we began on the CBS Evening News a series of reports listening to the candidates and giving you a chance to listen to them. First, Doug Wilder of Virginia, the nation's only black governor. Today, Wilder became the second Democrat to formally declare that he will run for president. CBS News chief political correspondent Bruce Morton has a report on where Wilder stands on the issues.
Virginia Governor Doug Wilder is a fiscal conservative, a man who says he's balanced budgets in Richmond and could do the same in Washington, D.C.
The president complains about Washington and Congress not doing the kinds of things that he wants. Oh, if they would just send me a balanced budget, he says. He has never sent a balanced budget to them.
And Wilder says President Bush is going at the budget the wrong way around.
Tax cuts, capital gain tax cuts for the rich, for those persons making $200,000 or more per year. That was his way to get rid of the deficit. But tax increases on the backs of middle-class Americans. That's no way to run a country.
Wilder says he would cut $50 billion in federal spending and use it for tax relief for the middle class and help for state and local governments.
And we're in tough times, lean times, even mean times. The question is, how long?
Critics say Wilder doesn't say what spending he'd cut and is vague about what else he'd do as president.
The people are always and will always be ahead of the leaders. Always. They are those who feel the brunt of government's inactivity. Well, they are those who feel the brunt of the regressive taxes. They are those who feel the absence of health care. They are those who need to know how to find a job for themselves and for their children.
Stressing fiscal conservatism, Wilder is marching to a different drummer among the Democratic hopefuls. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Monday, here on the CBS Evening News, you will see and hear from the second Democrat in our series, Senator Tom Harkin of Iowa. Stay with us now for more CBS News, including Eye on America. Tonight, doctors with AIDS and the patients who fear them.